Welcome into Pucknology After Dark. The bad news, the Sharks lost 5-0. The good news, there's still 70 games to go. Let's get right into this. But first, I should point out, we are sponsored by audible.com. We can offer you a free little trial there. If you like to support the program, check it out, audibletrial.com/PAD. You can choose from 180,000 audiobooks, and you have one that's yours to keep, whether you like the service or not. So, hey, check it out. Getting into it, or first, I should also mention we are live after every game, which is why we have to be on here after this lovely result. This is going to be a fun one, I'm sure, but you can check it out. You can subscribe. We are on every platform. We are here on YouTube Live right now, and we are on SoundCloud, Google Play, MySpace, Friendster. We're literally every platform you can imagine. We're there after every game. Check it out. So with that, let's get right into it. I mean, let's introduce the panel first. Joining me on this lovely night. They are very happy to spend their Saturday nights this way. I have the lovely Rocket Backhander.
Good evening, everyone.
And I have the equally lovely Ian Reed.
Well, thank you. I'm angry. I know this comes as no surprise because I'm the angry Canadian robot, but
breathe out, like get a little like mountain pose going here. We're like going yoga style here. We're gonna deep breaths because we got a lot to get into. It's a 5-0 ass kicking we have to talk about here. So yeah, with that, let's just get right into it. Mr. Ian Reed.
I'm glad you came to me first because everyone's going to be like, these people didn't play good and that happened and this happened. Guys, the reality is this is my fault. Every hockey I watched, I was excited. I had all the hockey lined up for today. It started off with a Barracuda game. Barracuda lost. Then it was the gold medal game between Team Canada and Team Sweden. Team Canada lost. And then I come home and the Sharks lost. This is on me, guys. So
#blame Ian.
Blame Ian. So if you're out there and you're pissed off about this game, just realize it's because I was watching it. All right, and I apologize for this, guys.
We really don't need
to have a show.
That's bad, bro. Wow. Like 5-0. I get that it's your fault, but bro, you couldn't have given us like a 3-2 or something.
All right,
man.
can we stop?
Rocky, let's get into it. Yeah, Rocky, go ahead.
I need to pause for one moment before we hyper focus on the 60 minutes of torture that we all went through as the Teal family. Let's just dial that lens back a notch and take a look around the horn. And somebody somewhere else in the universe of the NHL lost 10-0 tonight, and I am not making this up. 10-0, and it wasn't the San Jose Sharks. So yeah, okay, we lost 5-0, but it could have been worse. So that's what I wanted to say.
That is certainly comforting as an initial thought. And as I already mentioned at the top of the program, the bad news, they lost 5-0. The good news, there's 70 games left. So while we're going to definitely react to this because, man, this is a really bad third loss in a row, there's definitely not a reason to panic just yet. There's reason for worry, not reason for panic. I mean, I'm not going to say there's bright sides to tonight because there really wasn't much. There wasn't much. But as a whole, I don't know, Ian, from what you've seen through 12 games now, are you worried that the Sharks are going to miss the playoffs or the Sharks are in trouble yet?
I'm not. See, here's the thing. I'm not thinking about any of that stuff right now. And I kind of had a talk about this on Twitter. Am I worried? No. We watched the Sharks play some pretty miserable hockey through the first third of the season last year. And look how that ended. Are there concerns that I have? Yeah, of course there's concerns. There's things that are very troublesome right now. There's a lack of chemistry. There's, I don't think Martin Jones has looked as good as previous, as he did the previous year, the one season he played, and we all anointed him franchise goaltender. So I mean, yeah, is there concerns? Absolutely, but it's November. I don't want to talk about fucking playoffs.
We still got
playoffs.
Dude, we still got trade deadline. There's another bye. God knows what kind of trade Doug's got up his
fucking All-Star game yet. Jesus
Yeah, exactly. Like we're not, and okay, so this is the last time we'll have to look at the Penguins. That's it. So we just have to worry about the Pacific Division, really.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think you're both correct. Like in the short term, there's no reason to panic. Like we are roughly 15% of the way through the season, not even that really. Like we're a very small portion in. The Sharks have plenty of time to figure it out. And this time last year, they're 6-6 now. They were 7-5 this time last year. Like the difference is one game, and last year's team went to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I don't think the record itself is a reason to panic or even the play. Like this time last year, what were we saying about the defense? The same defense that made some serious mistakes tonight. We were just saying it's a tire fire. Yes, Martin balances out Brent Burns, but just it's just so all over the place. It's up and down. Makes too many mistakes. We were having the same conversation exactly 1 year ago. So when people are starting to hit the panic button and freak out, like we aren't fully appreciating, hey, this team has plenty of time to find themselves, find what works for them, find their chemistry, start finding lines that click well and playing well again. Like it's not time to panic yet.
No,
I don't know, Mr.
I agree.
Go for it, Mr. Robot.
It's too early. I mean, there's so many games left to play, and you know, look at it's a three. It's always it sucks to lose. It sucks to watch your team lose. I get people are pissed off, but I mean, just on Twitter tonight, like some of the stuff that I read or conversed with. I mean, you had. I'm sorry, I'm going to do this, Chris, but you had Benchy pulling out basically all his greatest hits in one tweet. It was fantastic of just what the Sharks should do now. I know,
bro.
We went so long. I know we went so long, but I just going around the.
I have to pull up the site safety graphic on air.
You do have to pull it out on air.
No, I'm really not. For those of you who don't know, we have a moratorium in our internal chat that
they did it
certain
to me.
names that must not be mentioned, and he just mentioned one of them. But Ian, go ahead and make your point, bro.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that as far as like between me and different people in Pucknology, me and Bench have a pretty civil relationship. And I even tweeted that at him. So it's not like this is something that I wouldn't have said to his face, 'cause I already did. I basically said you were missing one thing and you had like the trifecta. But I mean, you're seeing a lot of this, a lot of the panic setting in. And I get it. Look, it's 3 games. And this game tonight was fucking ugly. There's no way around it. I mean, I wish I could tell you this is something awesome about this game. The only thing awesome about this game was watching Haley punch Cole in the face, and yay, with 2 minutes left. I mean, that sure changed the game. Good thing he was in the lineup for that, man.
I'm always one to swear off hot taking after games because, man, it's annoying. But I can't really fault anyone for overreacting to this one or even just plain react, whatever you want to call it. Because, in terms of a third game and a 3-game losing streak, this is ugly. Rocket, go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with everything you're saying. Basically, no, it was any kind of reaction was definitely appropriate because it was not a boring game by any means.
Yeah, I guess you could say it wasn't boring. I mean, it was exciting for Pens fans who honestly, as the different fan bases we dealt with last season went, they were probably the most insufferable. Like, and I say that knowing full well we dealt with Kings fans. We had more fun dealing with Kings fans.
Kings fans, but, they're fun.
Yeah, they're something else. But I like Kings.
There are some Kings fans I actually follow on Twitter. I follow no Penguins fans on Twitter.
Exactly. Well, I mean, Penguins media makes creeper shots of Jumbo Joe and Brent Burns. So, anyway, let's try and be constructive with our conversation here because it's easy to get into the fuck everything because really that's honestly how I think we all feel right now. Fuck everything. I'm sure you all seen the gif of like the Godzilla thing of like fuck this building, fuck this bridge, fuck everything, and mostly fuck you. That whole so I just went off on a slurry of F-bombs there, but really okay. I think let's look at some of the trends we've seen over the last couple games, this whole season, but especially this couple games is really sloppy play by the defense. Like there's been so many goals where it's like if the defense covers a guy, it doesn't happen, or it's a lot less likely to happen. And there's that. And I think the other thing we need to talk into is Martin Jones' performance. So let's start with the defense, kind of the sloppiness there.
I think it's
And
a sloppiness
everyone's
across
thoughts.
the board, though. I don't think it's just, this isn't just on the defense. The forwards aren't clicking like they, I know Bodkirk is taking a lot of shit right now, and it's fair. Look, it's justified. I'm not trying, this is not me trying to white knight Bodkirk, but I think, he's systematic of a bigger problem, and that's he can't find any chemistry anywhere. It doesn't matter what line they really put him on, he doesn't find any contained chemistry. And now you've got guys that have been playing together forever and they can't find chemistry. So I don't know what chance you have if you're Bodker when Pavs and Thornton can't find any chemistry right now. They put Hurdle back up on the top line to try and kickstart something there, and again, not really much going there again. And so I think, you look at the defense, it's systematic of the whole team right now. There's just no chemistry anywhere, and I don't understand it.
Completely agree. Rocket, what's your take?
Yeah, it's sort of like that that one it was an Austin Powers movie. I think it was the second one where he had his mojo stolen and they went back in time with it. It's like
my mojo, baby.
Yeah, somebody's fucking stole the Sharks' mojo. So I don't know what they need to do. Maybe they can find some of that road dog magic in those white sweaters and go see a game or sing some country music karaoke or whatever the hell they do to bond. They'll play some like Dungeons and Dragons or some shit like that. Just whatever it is you need to do. Bond on the road, get it done.
I don't know, on the team, who do you think is the biggest D&D player in the Ian, go. If you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, what am I answering?
Who do you think on the team is the biggest D&D player? Go.
Oh, Jesus. Wow. Shit. Paul Martin.
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. Rocket, what do you think?
Martin Jones.
Yeah, actually, that was my pick as well. I was thinking like Martin Jones looks the combination of nerdy and smart enough that I think he's probably the biggest D&D player on the team. I don't know. Those of you in the chat, if you want to join the conversation, you can give your hot take on this right now. Who's the biggest D&D player? I see Slushy already saying Brendan Dillon. You can also add us on Twitter. You can find me at ChrisJWS, as you see by the little thing right down here. You can at them. He is I read Pucknology, and she is the lovely Rocket Backhander 76. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And they got the handle right there. So at us, tell us who you think is the Sharks' biggest D&D player. Reaction. But getting back into it also, and Ian mentioned this earlier. Martin Jones, like, it's still a small sample size, but definitely there's a little there that we need to maybe wonder about. Like, he's had his share of Jones really would want that back kind of goals. Like Rusnowski said it a few times in the broadcasts, and Randy Hahn said it a few times. It seems like there's been a fair number of Jones would really want that back kind of goals lately. I don't know, Rocket, what do you think?
He doesn't look the same as he did last season. Even this was the thing that bothered me the most, because I'm not I can't go off of numbers and percentages and looking at things and seeing how in position they are, because I don't know. They showed him on the bench after he'd been pulled. It was sometime in the third, and the look on his face was really frightening. There was something about his eyes that I didn't like. I really he's spooked. He's not the same Joner that he was last year.
It's in the eyes.
Scared me.
Ian Reed, your take, buddy.
I feel like we partially did this to ourselves as fans, and maybe not me, because I kind of was like, hey guys, maybe we should ease up on that franchise goalie tag a few times this summer.
I remember hearing that.
But I think that we've only seen one season of Martin Jones, and we've seen goaltenders come into the league, light it on fire. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen to Martin Jones, but we've seen this happen where a guy comes in, has a great season, and then falls off the face of the goaltending planet. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Martin Jones, but I don't think that, he still has a lot to prove as a goalie. I don't think you can just take last season and say, okay, now he's, that proves everything's fine. And I get the desire for Shark fans for that to do that, but I really think that we still don't know what we have in Martin Jones.
I really agree. I think, yeah, we've definitely anointed him maybe a little prematurely, but I mean, that is part of the fan experience. We overreact in bad ways, which drives me a little nuts, and we overreact in good ways. So it's not really, it's part of the equation, right? And I think I'd like to see more from Martin Jones before I start wondering, like, oh gosh, was he an anomaly? Because goalies can also have bad stretches. They can also have great stretches. Hopefully, it's not just the latter, but we'll see. I see
it's not like the
Captain.
team in front of him's been good. That's the other thing. I mean, like, can we really judge Jones when the team in front of him has been hot garbage through this losing streak? No.
Yeah, definitely. The defense is definitely not giving him any help. He's had his share of, like, well, he should have had that, but yeah, he's also had his share of, like, he had no chance because the defense did that. Captain Phasma in the chat saying, "Give it to Dell for a few." #laptop lives matter. Thank you, Captain Phasma, and yeah, you can comment in the chat there. I see a lot of comments here about which Sharks player has a custom dice bag.
Nice.
I don't know who would have a custom dice bag. Like, I think Matt Nieto just, I don't know why I think that way.
Matt Nieto's the one that does the Spotify list for the D&D. Joel Ward has the custom dice bag.
Then we have Slushy there with which Sharks player has a condom in their hockey bag. Bad Slushy.
Ben Smith. That's why he's not here anymore.
Poor Ben Smith.
# conference condoms.
Hey.
And I see in the chat we have a # fire Doug Wilson. I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with this team construction. Like, again, this kind of delves into the hot taking aspect, which we are a part of. We are a part of the hot take culture of fans. There is no denying it. I'm not really worried about the fundamental construction of this team, at least not yet. Not this early in the season, because really, like I said, last season, they were not much different at the same point. We were saying a lot of the exact same things, and the record, there was a difference of one win. I don't know. I don't know. Do you, Ian, if you want to go?
Sorry, I was just going to say, Nick in the chat just said, Ian, you just lost half the Teeny Bop crew by suggesting Hot Joner as a one and done. Take it back, Ian. I didn't suggest. I just said I'm not saying that that's the case, and I think that, again, the team in front of him has been hot garbage as well. So I don't want to. I'm not saying Jones is a one and done and was a one-hit wonder, and he's not a franchise goalie. I'm just saying it's too early to say if he's hot garbage or a franchise goalie or somewhere in between. We just don't know enough yet.
Well, and if we remember, and this is something a lot of fans like to forget about the Niemi era, is he was once a runner-up for the Vezina. Like, he did have an amazing season at one point, as Martin Jones did. I'm not going to say he's Niemi, but it's the whole, like, we don't know for sure. Like, and it's worth discussing, but it's also
right.
What the track record we have is very good. So I don't think there's a reason to panic yet. If honestly, if he is a one season wonder, we are screwed. But
yep. Yeah, but I mean, if the Sharks keep playing like they're all 40, then we're screwed anyway. So
it just like it seems like somebody put Xanax in their Gatorade. They were Prozac out of their minds tonight. They couldn't get a clean pass off of them, and then they just were. It was like the Tower of Babel. Every single one of them was thinking a completely separate thing and in a completely separate space.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into the next thought I had on the game was forget about the last two games. Think about how they've matched up against the Penguins. And we talked last season about how when it came down to it, the Penguins were too fast. They were the better team when the chips were down. They were the better team, and the Sharks had a gap to close. And I don't know what I've seen early in the season. I have tremendous doubts if they've closed that gap because they added Bodker, they added Schlemko, which I think is good, but I don't know. Are they ready to run all the way to the cup now? I mean, with the roster construction, do we think that they have what it takes? I mean, it's hard to project at this point, but do we think they can run with the really fast, aggressive teams?
No, because there's still. I mean, your top line still isn't fast. I mean, you're still relying way too heavily on. It doesn't matter who they put on the wing, but you're still relying way too heavily on Thornton and Pavelski to get it done, and they are never going to be fast. Yeah, they can skate, but they're not. They're never going to keep up with those other teams. And Bodker, I don't want to completely shit on Bodker here, but I mean he's got to find something. This is a guy who has scored 50, 60 points on shitty teams. So, you'd think that you'd put him on a line and you'd get some chemistry, but fuck, I don't know what's going on with him.
Rocket.
What's the question? What are you talking about?
I kind of sidestepped it. I'm sorry.
If you're playing D&D with any Sharks player, who would you play it?
No, that's not the right way to play it because it depends. So I would say if I was playing D&D, which Shark would I want to be the dungeon master, which is the person that writes all the stuff? Okay, and that would be Peter DeBoer.
I don't know if you're going into a cave with any Sharks. I don't know. I don't play D&D. So I really don't know. I used to room with a dungeon master, but I never understood any of that shit.
If the playoffs started today, and it was Rafi Torres, blank. There's your ultimate paradox question.
You would kneecap that 20 die, and you grab that 20 die by the pussy.
Suspension.
That's my thing now, because those are the two favorite things that always seem to happen on the show. It's like if the playoffs started today, and whenever we're talking to suspension, if that was Rafi Torres.
If Rafi Torres was the dungeon master, he would be suspended for like 5 turns unless he rolled the 20-sided die to I don't know where I'm going with this. Rocket. Yeah. So I think what we're saying is, I think the question was, can the Sharks run with those fast teams? The one, what ultimately undid them last season. Are they ready to do that, or does this look like they're not there yet?
No, dude. Father Time only runs forward. He does not moonwalk. I think Ian is correct in this, in that the Joes are still relied on heavily to get it done, and they are not going to be any speedier than they were last season. They can't. If they match up against a team like Pittsburgh again, adios. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, like last season, I felt like, man, they drew the worst matchup. I don't know if they would have fared a lot better against Tampa Bay. I like to think they would, but it seems like Pittsburgh has the whole fast thing dialed in. Like they got the speed right now. They got that game going, and tonight it just felt like, they were always, it was just like the finals. They were always one step ahead. Like anything the Sharks did, they were already, like they were a half second ahead all the time. And I see, in the chat there, Sleeping Mofo, is this the Big Bang Theory? Not quite. There's no bang going on here.
There's no bang going on here. There's no laugh track.
Yeah.
Yeah, like lols were so funny. Ha ha ha. Nerdy. Like, look how nerdy we are. Ooh, yeah.
I am kind of nerdy, huh?
And I see Slushy is on timeout. I don't know who did that, but whoever did probably he probably deserved it.
In the chat, yeah.
No politics in chat. We're here to talk about how much of a flaming dumpster fire that the San Jose Sharks are, not how big of a flaming dumpster fire the US could be, no matter who wins next week.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, the Sharks could not be a dumpster fire next week. We know U.S. politics will still be a dumpster fire next week, so let's not get into that.
Nope, I'm not.
Meh.
Rocket.
Meh. I don't dumpster fire. I don't think we've reached dumpster fire status just because this is an entire team effort of suck. So if it were just like two people that were really obviously shitting the bed consistently night after night.
I think at this point they've kind of like rolled all the stuff in the dumpster, put the gasoline on it. Really, at this point, it's kind of like throwing the match on there and walking away as you're not looking at the explosion. Really, we're kind of in that, like, about to do that. We're somewhere in there. I agree. Like, and again, we are slightly overreacting, and mostly facetiously, because we are 12 games in. This is early, but I would say this is not unwarranted to look at this and go,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want people to come on here and think that we're just gonna, be like, okay, guys, don't worry, everything's awesome, don't worry, we're all good, it doesn't matter, it's only 12 games in. Like, yes, this game was a shitstorm, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat that for you. This game sucks. You should be angry about this game. Should you write off the entire season right now? I would argue no. I think that the Sharks have been a little bit unlucky with putting the puck in the net, and that can't last forever. And I think once that changes, then a lot of these things that we could say tonight, we might look silly saying it, having said in 2 weeks. Or they might just keep sucking, and then who knows?
Yep. Rocket?
Someone in the chat asking if it's still too late to tank for McDavid?
Yeah, that's a great thought right there. Mike Neves asking, like, name 3 players who brought it offensively this season. I can't name 2. That's difficult. I don't know. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I have the numbers in front of me, so I can tell you that in 11 games, Joe Pavelski has 12 points. I can tell you that in 11 games, Brent Burns has 11 points as well. The guy who I am most concerned with right now is Logan Couture. Who has 6 points so far, and is like,
he's been brutal in the face.
34% in the dot, right? So I mean, the guy that I'm most concerned with, and I think that this is a huge problem when your second line center is getting just completely demolished in the faceoff circle, and then isn't putting up points on top of that. Again, and this goes back to that lack of chemistry that we have right now. We don't, him and Donskoy have been okay. But again, you can't seem to find a wing for them. You can't seem to find a wing for Thornton and Pavelski. So I think these are the problem. I think Marleau, a lot of people are going to get on Marleau, as we always do, because he makes $6.6 bajillion million trillion dollars.
And he's just the perennial target.
And he's the perennial target. But you know what? For a guy who's playing on the third line, I'm not horribly upset by his 4 points, given what he's playing. Do I think it's time to get him off that first power play unit? Yeah, I think you could probably switch that up a little bit. But, other than that, I'm not really cross with Patrick Marleau right now. I'm more cross with, like I said, I think Logan kind of flies under the radar because Marlowe's the easy pinata, and I don't think that's fair. I think it's time to, it's time to worry about Chris Tierney a little bit. This is a guy who's been handed the keys to the third line on a couple of occasions now, and they've always been taken away. And you guys know that I am a huge Chris Tierney guy. But at this point, you have to start wondering, what is Chris Tierney? So there's issues here. And it's not just all, well, we couldn't trade Wingles and, Nieto's in the doghouse. And Haley's in the lineup. Look, yeah, okay, are there better players than Haley that could come into this lineup? Yes. But if you want to just, flat out just blame Haley for all of this, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It's not Haley's fault that Sharks are fucking lost their last 3 games.
Definitely. I'm not a Haley fan, but I agree with you. He's not what's wrong with this team right now.
There's way bigger issues than that. Yes, could they put someone better in the lineup? Yes, absolutely. But it's not the biggest issue that's facing this team right now.
Rocket?
I agree with everything he said. Like, look, you got to remember that Ian has basically cut me into hockey, so all of the good habits that Canadians tend to have about not overreacting and not being stupid about things, I tend to embrace. So, like, I'm just like, meh, yeah, no, yeah, no.
My general rule I go by, and I say this on Twitter all the time, don't overreact to any one game either direction. They dominate and win a game 10-0 like the Blue Jackets did the other night over the Montreal Canadiens.
Dude.
Don't overreact to that and think the Blue Jackets are world beaters. But don't think the Montreal Canadiens are suddenly the worst fucking team of all time.
Certainly.
Any one game can go any one way. Even any 2 or 3 games can go any given direction. So this is not necessarily who the Sharks are. It's not a good indication, but it's not necessarily who they are, especially,
Right.
we have the history right in front of us. We can look at it. This time last year, they had one more win, and we were asking the same questions about, man, that defense is spotty. Man, that scoring is inconsistent and top heavy. So a lot of the
Goaltending is
same questions.
questionable. Yeah.
Yeah, goaltending. I think that was one of the questions we weren't having. Like at this point, Martin Jones was beasting. I think it was the backup goaltender last year. We were like,
Yeah.
freaking Stalock can't
Stalock.
stop. Like he couldn't stop a beach ball getting shot at him right
He
now.
wouldn't stay on the porch.
He couldn't.
Yeah, and it's
Stalock-
interesting, because that's actually a good segue to something I wanted to talk about, and that is, is it just that Peter DeBoer doesn't trust Dell? And I think after 11 games, it's kind of too early to say that. There's a couple of games where I thought it would have been a good opportunity for Dell to start, but, so I kind of threw out the other day, I kind of said that Peter DeBoer has a history of riding his starters, and I actually went and did some numbers, and it's not exactly true, although a lot of his goaltending previous teams was old as fuck. So I went back to basically his entire NHL coaching record. When he coached in Florida, obviously Vokun started heavy. Vokun was up there in age even at that point in time, though. But he kept Vokun. I can't remember. I can't compensate for injuries here, and I feel like Vokun was a little bit injury prone too. But Vokun, started they had about a, I don't want to say like a 70-30 split between them percentage-wise, like 55-27, 63-23, 57-33 between his backups, which were Craig Anderson and Scott Clemenson. Then he went to the Devils, obviously, and they had Brodeur, but again, this is Brodeur, well past his best before date. The year that they went to the Cup final, it was 59-27 split. Brodeur again 29-19 in the 48 game season, and then once they got Schneider, I think Schneider rode heavy, and I think Schneider rode more heavy had the politics not really come into play there. Obviously Brodeur was still loved by the fan base, but then you look at 14-15, and I appreciate that Peter DeBoer did not last very long this season, but he rode Schneider through all of those games until he was fired, and Schneider ended up playing almost 70 games that season. And then you look at last year, and it's about the same, 20 games between his backups and 65 for Jones. So I think that when you see him with a younger goalie, I think he's just riding him. I don't think it's that he doesn't trust Dell. I think if he didn't trust Dell, then Doug Wilson would have addressed that issue, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I think really this is something though that needs to happen though, whether he trusts him or not. Dell needs to get more reps because last season we rode Jones hard, and I mean maybe again these slip ups by him lately could be a byproduct of how hard we rode him last season, because last season the Sharks rode him hard during the season. They barely gave him much rest at all. Luckily, we had a backup who could play, Reimer, who could play starter type load for the last month or so. May helped get him a little relief right before the postseason. The postseason, he was a beast as well. This could, maybe be a byproduct, but who knows? But really, I think whether he trusts Dell or not, if he doesn't, we need to find something else.
Right. I'm just not sure that's the case right now. I think it's too early to be clearly Dell's not trusted. I think that there was some opportunities, but
hey, the biggest skill when it comes to hot taking, Ian, is mind reading. Okay.
Oh, right.
I'm pretty sure Peter DeBoer. Okay, my friends, Peter DeBoer does not trust Aaron Dell, and President Obama is bringing elite. Oh yeah, sorry, I just went into Rush Limbaugh mode there. Just Rocket, save me.
All right, so I have a cat. He's really nice. He's nice and fuzzy. He's looking at me like, I don't know why you guys are freaking out about this. It's only game 12. And like I said before,
there's tuna around.
Nuts in the kitchen. He prefers chicken liver, actually. So I said before we started broadcasting, and I'll say it again now, just so that everybody who's listening understands that there is, okay, so this 12th game, 12-step programs, Serenity Prayer, help me to accept grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. The outcome of this game is something that and none of us could change, and so all of us would be better with a little bit more serenity in our lives. And we're gonna be all right. I think what we as Sharks fans have is a double-edged sword, because last year we had a lot more unknowns, and the anxiety that we felt was because we didn't know. Now we know what we have, we just don't know if it's going to work. And it's a whole other set of anxieties I don't know if we're comfortable with, but I don't think it's any worse than it was last year. We're going to be all right.
Yeah,
I think just the
absolutely.
expectations are higher. You go to the Stanley Cup final, expectations go up. And
For sure.
when you come out of the gate like the Sharks have, and they've they've had some good games. There were some nice, there were some games where I'm sure we were talking about if the playoffs started today and Rafi Torres was the dungeon master, what would happen? We've had those conversations already this year. So it's not like the Sharks have just been, it's been a really shitty 3 games, but in perspective, it hasn't all been bad.
Well, and also we haven't really seen the Sharks at their best. Like,
no,
I know we've seen the Sharks when like they can even their better games. We're like they can do better than this. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think like the peak. I'm trying to think which game you might consider. Like the Kings game, I thought was phenomenal, but as a whole, we haven't seen them go just like we haven't seen peak Sharks yet. For whatever the equivalent of never winning a game for Toronto when what's his name? I just totally blanked out. Scores. That's peak Toronto. We haven't hit peak Sharks yet.
Okay.
But that's why I'm not worried. This team is much better than it's shown. The talent's much better. Like we haven't seen Joe Thornton go on a scoring tear like he does. We've seen Brent Burns play well, but we haven't seen him go full Wookiee. So that's why I'm not worried. Like, I see a lot of untapped potential. I think when this team hits its rhythm, that's when this team can start racking up wins and start really starting to hit. And I don't necessarily want them to hit their rhythm too early in the season, because it always seems like most teams that go on a tear early tend to fade late. I don't know, Ian, have you seen many exceptions to that?
I don't know. I go back to my hot take from the previous show that we did a long time ago, and that's if the Sharks are doing good, it's good.
And if they're doing great, it's also great. It's phenomenal. Rocket.
Me, I don't know.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm waiting for the first major injury of the season. I can't say how all 4 lines are going to fire until we get through that injury, and I know there's going to be at least one.
Yeah, and also like this might serve as kind of a wake up call, because I think this is probably one of the worst. I don't know if it's one of the worst or the worst maybe since they lost to Winnipeg in early January last year. I think that was probably the worst game of the entire season last year. This might be the worst loss since. Like, I thought their 3-0 loss to Detroit, it was rough, but I didn't see like, wow, this team is really, really playing poorly tonight. Even though I didn't even think that tonight necessarily. They was playing extremely poorly, but they were not playing well. They were playing badly. They were not playing well. They were. I'm at a loss for words.
They're off kilter.
Gen X had an interesting statement/question in the chat, and he's just like, at what point do you start accounting for decay of potential when dealing with older guys? Look how fast Chara has fallen off. And yeah, I mean that's the scary thing, is that if this isn't just like a little slump and some of these guys just can't, and I'm not just talking about Joe Thornton, I'm talking about guys like Joel Ward, I'm talking about guys like Paul Martin, who has really been unimpressive this season. If you want my whipping boy this season so far, it's been Paul Martin. It's not Brendan Dillon for now. I'm not saying it won't go back, but for now.
There's plenty of time to rag on Dylan later in the season.
Yeah, I mean, you got all the time in the world. Come on. But I know, Rocket. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
But
We're
that's what I
sorry,
mean.
Rocket.
We're talking
No, you're
about
not.
we're talking about Marlowe.
No,
We're
yeah,
talking,
you're right, I'm not.
Marlowe, Ward, Thornton. There's if all, especially if all these guys decay at the same time. I mean, it's problematic. And I think the guy who's most problematic for me right now is Paul Martin. Paul Martin has been awful in my opinion.
Is he dragging Burns down with him, do you think?
No, I just think that he's not covering for Burns's Burnsness.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, Burns will be Burns, and we know this. I think that there's definitely some reason for concern there. I would like to see more before I start saying, yeah, this team's getting old, because it's been 6 months and since we last saw this team, or not even 6 months. It hasn't even been 6 months, and we last saw them hitting on all cylinders. So there's that. At the same time, though, they are not poorly situated. If at least two of those guys really are just getting old all of a sudden. Marlowe, who underperformed last season, this is last year on his deal. Thornton, who had a phenomenal season last year, but has another season right now on his contract. He is getting on the older side, and if he really falls off, that's cause to not re-sign either of them, really. And Paul Martin we have for another 2 years. So if he father time is caught up to him,
Please expand
that's definitely a little more worrisome. I think Joel Ward has, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 year left on his deal.
Yes.
So not neither. So between those, if those guys get old, 3 years between them, not the end of the world. Thornton and Marlowe, definitely not the end of the world, because this is a contract year for both of them. It's more worrisome if one of them or both have a poor year and they decide to re-sign them anyways. But I think it's a legitimate question to ask, but it's not something we can't answer it off of 12 games. It's hard to answer that off of 12 games.
No, and again, I'm not like I can see some stuff in the chat. Look you're right. Guys, I sleep mofo, you're right. I mean, the Sharks could go and rip off 6 games, and there'd be no one happier than me, especially because I'd be watching winning hockey and not losing hockey. But it's the thing that we have to do on this show, and it's difficult, is that we take a shitty game like this and we have to do a show about it, and then we try not to make just grand reaching statements based on one game. So yeah, we're going to be a little bit down right now. Yeah, this game sucked, and I know AJ's in the chat talking about not drafting a defenseman. Yeah, but not drafting defensemen and developing them properly isn't why we lost this game. And that's kind of where, we'd kind of like this show to be, where it's like, yeah, we're talking mostly about tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something we come back to all the time, and how we approach the show. And for those of you who are not aware, hey, we're here every single post game. You should check it out. Subscribe below. But that's one of the hard things we discovered, especially in our second full season doing this. It's really hard to not overreact. It's really hard to get up for a show and not do that, because part of what we have to do is we have to take the good, take the bad, and there you have the facts. I mean, take the good and the bad and keep it all in perspective. We have to say, okay, this is good or this is really bad, but big picture, let's look at what this actually means. Ian, you had something there?
No, give me a second. I'm doing something.
Okay, Ian is working on something, but really that's one of the challenges we face here all the time, is keeping this all in perspective, because man, it's so easy to overreact. It's so easy, it's a hard thing. So let's look at the standings right now. So if the season ended today, we have Edmonton in first place in the Pacific, and Edmonton leading the Western Conference, I believe, still with 17 points. Well, they're tied with Chicago, but yeah, we need to. I saw on Twitter today someone saying we need to be more like the Edmonton Oilers. So I agree. The Sharks, when it comes to stepping on their own dick, the Sharks do not compare to the Edmonton Oilers.
That's true.
You know what though, and I mean, it's nice that Edmonton's finally winning games, but holy shit, did we not just watch the last 10 years of hockey and the promise and then the rebuild and then the second rebuild and then the third rebuild? Like,
well, and also,
So it had to happen
did we not
eventually.
see Montreal last season have that amazing start out of the gate? Like, they were just on fire in October, November, and then December started leaking oil, and then missed the playoffs. They were leading the Eastern Conference at one point, so it's really hard to overreact.
well, they lost Carey Price too. I mean, that can't be overlooked.
But I mean, no, I'm not saying like there weren't reasons for that, but the point is, teams can start on fire or not on fire. And take Anaheim, for example, who started really badly last season, and they ended up winning the Pacific. So anything can turn around. And with that, we have our on-site reporter, Kevin Lacey.
Hey, guys. Do I need my headphones? I just realized.
Yeah, because we're hearing a little echo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the sound of my own voice, but not that much.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
So I believe Kevin Lacey is credentialed, and hashtag we are all Kevin Lacey. Are both those things correct, Ian?
That's an Eric question, and we are all Kevin Lacey. I can confirm that.
Okay, so it's the first one. We're not sure, but hashtag we are all Kevin Lacey is confirmed. Talking a little more about the standings. So yeah, Chicago's leading the Central, 12 games in. Followed by St. Louis. Shout out to our friends over at Let's Go Blues Radio, Kurt Price. Check those guys out. Those guys are cool. Oddly enough, they were talking about condoms the other night as well. And then Minnesota, my favorite Central team, in third in the Central there. And then Anaheim is coming up behind the Sharks in third in the Pacific. So, Kevin, what's on your mind?
All right, so earlier today, I was obviously at the Sharks game. I was down there for pregame. Martin Jones, I do want to point out, Martin Jones looked really bad in pregame. Now, granted, the goalies aren't really trying. The guys are just trying to shoot, warm up, whatever. Martin Jones was everything he was trying to catch was hitting him in the cuff, hitting him on the rim of the glove, or just going in. And he just seemed fundamentally off in warm-up, during the game. I don't know what was going on. Then I found out and hat tip to Greg, who I was sitting with this evening. Greg told me he was at Sharks practice, and Martin Jones left practice early. So I'm wondering, I hate being the guy who's like, oh, well, maybe so-and-so is hurt or whatnot. But I do question the fact that Martin Jones has been a little bit off so far this season, and I wonder if he's playing with a nagging injury.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, we speculated very similar about Joe Thornton early last season. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all remember the first third of the season. He was so-so, and I even said at the time, kind of a little disappointing. He wasn't playing that well, and then seemed like he shook it off, and then second half of the season was on fire. Maybe Martin Jones sees something similar, and we can really only speculate so much because we're just guessing here. But that's that's a fair point. And again, it doesn't excuse how the team in front of him is.
No.
But it definitely contributes to, well, if he was fully on his game, maybe we win one more of those games because he just has one of those. Oh well, Martin Jones looks like he wants to have that one back there, which I've heard from Dan Ruzowski this season a few too many times. But yeah, no, it's a fair point to discuss.
And what was painfully awkward was, now granted, thankfully we've had a lot of Penguins games in between the last time the Penguins were at SAP Center. But last season I also recall Jones giving up 2 from behind the goal line. The one that Crosby scored tonight was identical to a goal that Evgeny Malkin scored against him last year. So I don't know what it is with Jones just not hugging that post or getting his style control being out of whack or whatnot. But at least he showed up in the playoffs. But he's I don't know. That's a trend that I wish he would correct, because he's either really stable or he's all over the place. And tonight he was really all over the place.
So AJ in the chat is asking, when does Lacey change his handle to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtleneck?
Da, da, da. You can find me and my turtleneck on the Pucknology Writers Room every Sunday except tomorrow night.
Except for tomorrow.
I'll be
You
at
can
the
find me
Barracuda.
anytime, anywhere, except for just about now.
I'll be at the Barracuda game, folks. So, but thanks for having me on. I just wanted to let you guys
Did you
know
catch the Barracuda game today?
No, I was at work.
What time is it tomorrow?
Barracuda, I believe, are at 3 p.m. tomorrow.
3, yes.
Yeah, so I'll be there.
Yeah,
Square.
for those of you who don't
Thanks,
know,
guys.
yeah, you should really follow Kevin Lacey. What's your Twitter handle, bro?
At Kevin Lacey 22.
Okay.
Hashtag we are all Kevin.
You should, yeah, we
You're
are
my
all Kevin
fucking
Lacey,
hero,
and
dude.
you all should follow him. If you aren't following him, follow him like literally right now. Pause
Thanks,
this
guys.
podcast if you're listening later. Honestly, go away from the YouTube chat for a little bit. If you're not, go on Twitter, follow this guy. Cool.
Thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kevin.
Night.
Okay, so wrapping matters up here because I think we've talked about this to death a little bit, but that's what we do here. Getting into what's upcoming. Let me find. I know I have the schedule in one of my tabs here.
Nice.
So next coming up is Tuesday. So the Sharks have 2 days off. They will be playing the Capitals in Washington, followed by Thursday in Florida, Saturday in Tampa Bay. Shout out to our friend of the show here, Matt Sammons. You all should follow him as well at Salmon Says. Then we have at Carolina the following Tuesday, at St. Louis the following Thursday, and then at Arizona. So considerable road trip coming up, and I don't know, maybe they find themselves, maybe they don't, but what are you expecting to see, Ian, for this road stretch?
Oh, that Washington game scares me. But other than that, maybe the Lightning game. I don't know. I think that they're gonna find their stride at some point. But there's just some things here, like there's some pucks that just should go in the net that haven't, and I just feel like that can't last forever. And I think that once that happens, then we're going to be a little more cheerful on this show again.
Oh, yeah. It's been pointed out, I think, by Fear the Fan and a few others that right now their PDO, or those who don't speak fancy stats, their luck stat has been one of the lowest in the league. So if you think the Sharks haven't gotten any bounces this season, you're correct. They've definitely been on the shit end of luck. So, and that's not to make excuses for their poor play, because poor play has been part of it, but their luck has definitely not helped them either. Rocket.
I think there are a handful of minor adjustments and one major change away from glory. What those changes are, fuck if I know. They don't pay me for that.
You're like, shit, man. I'm just here so I don't get fined, okay?
Yeah, it's like I know that they know what they're supposed to do, and they know what they're supposed to do. They just need to do it. Just win the fucking game.
That's right. Just win the game.
Get on the plane and go.
Yeah.
Be free.
I mean, this is not as brutal of a road stretch as the first one was, but it's still considerable because, I mean, the first week we're talking about 3 different teams who were in the playoffs last year. Next week after that, I don't think Carolina was not in last season, right?
No.
Yeah, next after
Okay.
we can the puck drop to roll for initiative.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Back on the D&D seems to be the overlying theme here. If the season ended today,
if the season ended today, and
your D20s and
Rafi Torres was the GM,
yeah.
how long would the suspense
Oh,
be?
Kevin Lacey in chat asking closed door meeting for the Sharks tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of gut check for them, like just saying like, hey, we know we can play better. I mean, it's ultimately up to them what they can and can't do, but it seems like, yeah, I think they can play better. I think they will play better. Then we have St. Louis the following week, who they matched up in the Western Conference Finals. We should probably see if we can get Kurt Price on here or something like that. He was on last season, very courteous from Let's Go Blues Radio. And then we have Arizona again. Arizona Coyotes hockey. It's like a kick in the crotch. So I don't like Arizona. Okay, and then they have a home stretch after that, the week of Thanksgiving. That's actually a pretty brutal stretch. They have Monday, they have New Jersey. Wednesday, they have Chicago. Why do we always land Chicago right before Thanksgiving? Then Islanders on Friday. Sorry?
I think the Blackhawks are a very appropriate team to play before Thanksgiving.
Easy there, Ian. Easy.
What?
We booted Slushy out of the chat for politics talk.
That's
No,
not
Easy.
it's history. It's not politics. It's
Yeah, it's not
history.
history. It's
I know.
politics.
I know. I'm joking.
Fucking Indian head. I mean, it works perfectly.
But,
I think
hey, if that was true, then they would probably lose.
They'd starve to death.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's not go. Yeah, let's not go to our Islanders on the Friday after Thanksgiving, and Anaheim, who is always persistent. So yeah, that's what's upcoming. We'll be here for all those. I guess let's just go around the horn. Final thoughts before we wrap up, Rocket.
Final thoughts. Though my brow is furrowed and my hands are wringing, I am not necessarily frustrated with this team to the point where I'm ready to start calling them bad names. Their bad luck is unsustainable.
Hashtag small sample size.
There you go.
Ian, your final thoughts or forever hold your peace.
My final thoughts are everything would be better if, we just jumbled the lineup completely. Just, I think after that one goal that Vlasic scored, clearly the guy should be a forward. Move Vlasic to forward already. Let's get this done.
Actually, I was thinking Martin Jones to forward, Vlasic to goaltender, and Brent Burns.
Did you see that breakaway against the Ducks? No. Vlasic to forward. Because one
Ian,
game
you
means
ignorant
everything.
Slut. But on a more serious note, I think really what I'm going to say to finish up here is a lot like what I said last year around this time. Is like the Sharks last year didn't really have an identity. This year, we know what their identity has been last year in the playoffs, but they kind of have to find themselves. Like they haven't really established who they are yet. They have plenty of time to do that. And I think that's really what's got to happen. They got to find what game works for them, how they go about playing. Because I mean, there's a dial-in process every year, especially when you have change, when you have a couple new players. Really, that's why I'm not worried. They have plenty of time to figure out what works well, as long as they're not playing themselves out of contention. Because right now, 6-6, they're very much in contention. They're right there in the mix. If they were 1-11, I would be a little more worried, but they're sitting in a spot where they have plenty of time to figure it out. They're not going to be playing out contention, so I think that's it. Just some patience with this team. Last year they figured it out. Maybe they do it again. Who knows? And maybe they actually win the Stanley Cup this year. That'd be great. So
I do have a legit final thought, and that's that everyone should watch the Writers' Room tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, hashtag plugs here. So I guess we should mention all our various plugs, but yes, watch the Pucknology Writers Room. If you're watching us on YouTube, see this little thing above my head here, but that thing right there, the little
Search bar.
Plug in Pucknology Writers Room right in there. Check that channel out. It's a little more NHL centric, a little less Shark centric, but you'll enjoy it a lot.
Yes.
Also, Rocket, I believe you have a plug or two.
Yeah, you should go to pucknology.net and check out the Pucknologists podcast. That's me, AJ, and the Hockey Jerk, coming at you usually on Thursday mornings. Once a week, it's an audio, family-friendly podcast talking about Sharks hockey, fun stuff.
If you prefer something that's a little more fucking family-friendly, that's your ticket right there. Yeah,
there's no assholes. It's just jerks.
Yeah, there's a jerk on there. There's no assholes. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's 100% less fucks, a lot more AJ, but still 0 fucks given.
Sure.
And you should really check out their awesome interview with John Turturro. I've been so swamped, I caught up on this week. It's a more evergreen type of thing. It's not something that, like, if you miss it this week, it's irrelevant next week.
Right.
It's actually interesting if you want to see more insight into the Sharks' business operations, how they're making their decisions, what their thoughts are. John Turturro actually sat down for a whole hour with these guys and really gave a lot of thoughtful answers. So check it out. It's well worth your time.
Yeah.
You can find that on SoundCloud, Stitcher, MySpace, Zanga. Yeah, okay, maybe not those, but yeah, you can find it on all the actual things.
MySpace
You
now.
can find it.
Still a thing.
Apparently it is.
Oh man, I'm making a MySpace right now.
Ian, you're not in my top 8, sorry.
You guys get an Elo going.
Yeah, no, Ian is not in my top 8. Sorry, bro. Okay. And with that, let's wrap things up here. So check those out. Check out the Pucknologies. Check out Pucknology Writers Room. Check us out here after every post game. Subscribe below. And
Peace.
if you are listening later on audio, search us on YouTube, Pucknology After Dark. Subscribe to our channel. We are here pretty much just all the time. Like we're just
If you like the
we're
show,
we're the people who don't go away. Even if you want us to. Also, Pucknology After Dark is sponsored by Audible.com. If you like the show, you want to help support us, and you like free audiobooks, hey, it's free. Go check out audibletrial.com/PAD. We'll give you a free audiobook as a part of a $30-day membership trial for free. You get to keep the audiobook whether you keep the service or not. It's a great service. I actually use it. I like it. It's great. It's huge. It's the best service. No, sorry. I went into my Trump there. And really, I mean, that's about it. So we're going to get out here. Final score, it was a shit show. 5-0 Penguins. The Sharks looked a little helpless tonight. But hey, tomorrow is another day. There's still 70 games left. With that, everyone have a good night. See you later.